Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking through the two-game Monday Night Football slate on Draftkings. We do have two games on Monday night, so normally we would talk about the showdown slate and we would break down, the Monday night game. Well, for this Monday, we're actually getting a doubleheader. We have one game starting at 7:15, and then an hour and 15 minutes later, we have the Vikings and Eagles playing. So we got a two-game Monday night slate, and DraftKings, their big prize pools are for the two-game slate. There are two individual showdown slates, but I figure I would just cover the two-game slates since that's where like a lot of the big money is. So yeah, guys, we're gonna do this kind of like we do our main slate breakdowns. We're gonna go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, go through each position and just kind of talk about the slate, what stands out to me, the plays I do like at each position. But before we get started with the breakdown, guys, as always, please hit that like button down below. Appreciate you guys checking out these videos every day. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And also, if you are new here, check out the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. So if you have not heard of Prize Picks, they are a player prop based DFS site. So it is very simple. You're just picking over or under, more or less on a player's projection. Prize Picks offers a ton of projections in a ton of different categories. They also offer a ton of sports outside of just NFL. So if you like to dabble into any other sports, I'm sure Prize Picks probably offers it. And you can mix and match sports on Prize Picks. You can do multi-sport entries. You can take a look at all the props that they already have posted for Monday night's game. Ton of stuff already on their board. Maybe even as we get closer to kickoff Monday night, they'll probably add even more props. But you can see they add, they have like passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards. They also offer fantasy scores, so you can bet like on a over/under on a player's fantasy point projection, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. I mean, Prize Picks has every prop imaginable. And it's a lot of fun. I play on Prize Picks. I've been playing on Prize Picks for a little bit over a year now. I know a lot of you guys already do play on Prize Picks, but if you have not signed up for Prize Picks yet, sign up and use code NOAH. Get your deposit bonus. When you do sign up, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. And I will be sharing a couple of props that I like for these two Monday night games. Shortly after this video gets posted, I will post my Prize Picks video talking through some plays I like for these games. So if you're playing on Prize Picks already and you want to see some plays I like for today or for these two games, you can check out that video as well. But yeah, guys, let's talk through this two-game Monday night slate. We're going to start off at the quarterback position. So looking at the four quarterbacks on this slate, I think it's pretty simple to break down the QBs. I think there's a tier 1, I think there's a tier 2, and then there's a tier 3. I think tier 1 consists of Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. I think tier 2 consists of Kirk Cousins, and I think tier 3 is Ryan Tannehill. So I think Allen and Hurts are definitely the top two quarterbacks on the slate, probably by a wide margin. We know Josh Allen is an elite fantasy quarterback. Obviously, he was incredible in their Week 1 win against the Rams. He had 297 passing yards, came up just short of the 300-yard bonus. Still had 33 DraftKings points, 3 passing touchdowns. Also had 56 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. I know he was last season the overall QB1. Good chance at the end of this season he'll be the top fantasy quarterback once again. I mean, the guy just has so much upside. He can do it through the air. He has rushing upside as well. He's a dual threat quarterback. It's a two-game slate. Obviously, Josh Allen is a really good play here. I don't need to tell you that. I think Jalen Hurts is a really good option too. We know Jalen Hurts offers rushing upside. He ran for 90 yards in Week 1. It was good to see him running the ball a lot. Threw the ball 32 times as well. Had 243 passing yards. Pretty crazy that Jalen Hurts did not throw a touchdown. The Eagles put up 38 points. Jalen Hurts did not throw a touchdown, and he still scored 24 DraftKings points. Like, that just kind of shows you the upside he has. Now, he did get a rushing touchdown, but he's a guy that can throw for 250, close to 300 yards, and he can run for close to 100 yards as well. He's got a big ceiling. If anyone can outscore Josh Allen, it's probably Jalen Hurts on this slate. I don't see Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill outscoring Josh Allen, so if you're not going to play Josh Allen, the next best option is definitely Jalen Hurts. I think this is probably the more appealing game of the two as well. When you're looking at the two games on the slate, I think this Minnesota Eagles game has a little bit more likelihood to shoot out. It does have the higher total between the two games. I would say, like, if you could have the salary, maybe Josh Allen's the better play, but I think both quarterbacks are really good plays here. Like, if I was playing 10 lineups on this show or on this two-game slate, I think I would have Allen. It might be like half and half, like 5 Allen lineups and 5 Hurts lineups. I'm not super in love with Cousins or Tannehill. I think Cousins is fine. Kirk Cousins does have some weapons in Minnesota. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is going to be a standout play on this two-game slate. Adam Thielen, I think, is a solid option as well. He wasn't fantastic in their Week 1 win against Green Bay, but he wasn't terrible either. He had 19 DraftKings points, 277 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. this Vikings offense, I think they can put up points, and I think this game against the Eagles, I think does have some sneaky shootout potential. So like, I don't mind Kirk Cousins. I think he's definitely a step behind Hurts and Allen, but Cousins is playable. Ryan Tannehill, I just don't think I'm going to go there. Like it's really hard to see Ryan Tannehill be the winning quarterback on the slate. I just I don't see any way he outscores Hurts, Allen, and Cousins. I think very likely that Tannehill is going to score the fewest fantasy points of all the 4 quarterbacks. The one argument you can make for Tannehill is that he is really cheap, and this is a slate that does have stars. Like you have Dalvin Cook, you have Derrick Henry, you have Justin Jefferson. There's going to be guys that you want to pay up for. If you want to pay up for those guys, you're probably going to have to punt some positions. So like, maybe you could punt quarterback and get away with it, but I think for me, I'm really going to try and pay up for Allen or Hurts. I just think those 2 guys are far and away the best 2 quarterback plays on this slate. I think Cousins is a fine option, and then Tannehill's, if you do play Tannehill, I think you're just kind of playing him just to fit in some of the star running backs and receivers, just kind of punting the quarterback position. But that's it for quarterback. Let's talk about running back now. So as we mentioned, we do have 2 stars at the top here. We got Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, they were both kind of disappointments in week 1. Dalvin Cook got pretty good volume, pretty good usage. 23 touches, had 20 carries, and also got 5 targets, had 90 rushing yards. Did not find the end zone though, and normally Cook is always a pretty good bet to get into the end zone. So I would expect a better game from Dalvin Cook here. I think at 8K, I think he's probably one of the better pay-up options on this slate. I think he's one of the safer options as well. We know Cook is going to get pretty good usage in the passing game, so like even if by some chance the Vikings get behind in this game, Cook will still be out there catching passes, which for a guy like Derrick Henry, I don't know if we can really say that, and I would definitely be worried a little bit about game script for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is one of these guys that for some reason the Titans just refuse to throw him the ball. Henry could be like an elite fantasy running back if he got like 5, 6, 7 targets, but they just don't involve him in the passing game much. He only got 1 target in week 1. I know last season he barely got targeted in any games. He's still going to get probably 20 plus carries just because we know this Titans team, they want to just run the ball as much as possible. The Titans are probably going to do everything they can to keep the ball away from Josh Allen. But like if they get down, like if they're down 2 touchdowns or something, we could see Henry just kind of scripted out of the game. He's not going to come off the field, but they're probably gonna have to throw the ball. Right now Buffalo is favored by 10, so a little bit worried about game script for Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is definitely more of a contrarian option. If I had to guess, when you're looking at the studs on this slate between Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown, I think Henry might be the lowest owned of all those 5 guys. Anytime Derrick Henry is going to be low owned, he's always in play. Derrick Henry can break a slate. He can break off long touchdown runs. He's always a threat to put up a massive game. I just think in this spot on the road against Buffalo as big underdogs, it's definitely not the ideal scenario for Derrick Henry. That doesn't mean he can't have a good game. But if I had to bet on it, I would say, this is probably going to be a spot where Henry just kind of, is mediocre. Could definitely see him having another kind of rough outing here. Don't love the spot against Buffalo. Buffalo also has a really good defense too. But then some other running backs for cheaper. So Miles Sanders, I think, is a pretty good play at 5,500. I think he definitely stands out as a kind of like an RB2. If you can pay up for Dalvin Cook and then find another running back to pair with Cook, I think Sanders is probably like your next best option. Sanders got 15 touches in week 1, was really efficient on his carries. He averaged over 7 yards per carry. It was a really good matchup against the Lions. I think this spot against the Vikings is pretty favorable too. I'm not too worried about this Vikings defense in general, especially against the run. I don't think the Vikings really have ever been that great. Last season in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs, the Vikings were just outside the top 10. So the matchup's fine for Sanders. I think the volume should continue to be there. Now in week 1, his snap count was solid. It wasn't great. He didn't play on 80% of the snaps. He only played on 52% of the snaps, but he still did get 15 touches. So if we can get Sanders to, if Sanders gets 13 to 15 touches, especially on a 2-game slate at 5,500, he's definitely going to be in play. And I think him and Singletary are kind of the 2 guys you're looking to in this mid-range. I think if you're choosing between Sanders or Singletary, I give a slight edge to Miles Sanders, but Devin Singletary is definitely a fine play as well. He only got 10 touches in their week 1 win against the Rams, but he's a guy that can catch passes as well, kind of similar to Sanders. Sanders, I think, got 2 targets in week 1. Singletary also got 2 targets. Not as big of a fan of the matchup for Singletary. I know last season the Titans were really good against the run. The Titans actually allowed the fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs, and they allowed the second fewest rushing yards to running backs. So Tennessee was a very tough team to run on, But Singletary's going to be on the field a good amount. In week 1, he played on, he played on 59% of the snaps in week 1. I think him and Sanders, I think, project very closely. I think they're going to project for similar volume. I think the matchup's slightly better for Sanders. I think the game environment is also a little bit better for Sanders. So I do prefer Miles Sanders over Devin Singletary, but I think Singletary's in play. And then I'm probably not playing anyone else like Kenneth Gainwell, Zach Moss, Boston Scott. I mean, these guys are just kind of dart throws. I think at the running back position, you really have 4 good options, and that's Cook, Henry, Sanders, and Singletary. No one else really stands out here. So let's move on to wide receiver now. And looking at the wide receiver position, you got Justin Jefferson at the top, $9K. Obviously really expensive, but Justin Jefferson, I mean, we know he's just a stud. He had a huge game in week 1, 11 targets, got 9 catches for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. You would think that the Eagles defense is going to do like whatever they can to stop Justin Jefferson here. Is it going to work? Probably not. I mean, the guy just finds a way to get open, but I think on this slate, when you're looking at the pay-up options, I probably would take Dalvin Cook over Justin Jefferson, especially for the $1,000 savings. I know Jefferson obviously had a huge game in week 1, and he got great volume. He's going to get great volume on a weekly basis. I just think the $9K price tag is really tough to pay. Like, if you want to pay up for Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, if you want to play one of Cook or Henry, at that point, you're just kind of running out of salary, and you just can't pay up for everybody. So I usually only play one lineup on these 2-game slates. I don't know if Justin Jefferson's going to make my one lineup. I might side with taking the savings, going to a guy like Dalvin Cook. Because you do have a guy like Stephon Diggs you could also pay up for. And Stephon Diggs is set up pretty well here. It looks like Gabriel Davis is not going to play for the Bills on Monday night, so Gabe Davis is coming into this game questionable. But the reports are that he's kind of more trending towards doubtful than questionable. So it seems like Gabe Davis is going to be out. And if Gabe Davis is out, I mean, that should just make the target share even more condensed in this Bills offense, and we should expect even more volume for Stephon Diggs. Diggs saw 9 targets in week 1, got 8 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown. He had a great game, and I think he's kind of set up for another good game here. The Titans, they were a very tough team to run on last year, but they were a team that you could definitely throw on. They actually allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. They also allowed the 2nd most receptions and the 2nd most receiving yards. The only team that gave up more receptions, receiving yards, and fantasy points to wide receivers was the Vikings, who is obviously the Vikings are on the slate, but I think it's a good matchup for Stephon Diggs, especially with the way things went last year. The way you beat this Tennessee team is through the air. So I think Diggs at 7,500 is a solid play. I don't really have anything negative to say about Diggs. It's just you can't pay up for everybody. And then AJ Brown, you have at 7K, and AJ Brown, I mean, he looked fantastic in his debut with the Eagles. He saw great volume. He was clearly the number 1 target for Jalen Hurts. 13 targets, which led the team. 10 catches for 155 yards. I mean, it's a really good matchup for A.J. Brown. As we just mentioned, the Vikings last season gave up the most receptions, receiving yards, and fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. They were a team that you could definitely beat through the air. I mean, when you look at this Vikings secondary, there's really no one that you're kind of, you're afraid of. Obviously, A.J. Brown's, one of these talented receivers that can just win in any matchup. So, yeah, I mean, like, A.J. Brown, I think, is a pretty good play, too. Like, it's hard on these 2-game slates, man. I mean, it's obviously, I can't come on here and just say, yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson's a terrible play. Like, obviously, Justin Jefferson is a great play. It's just that when you're building lineups for these slates, I mean, I wish we could just click Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, Diggs, AJ. I wish we could do that, but, we can't do that. That's not how, DFS works. You have a salary cap, so when you're looking at these top pay-up receivers, when you're looking at their price tags, like, I think I would take the savings off of Justin Jefferson and go with like Diggs and A.J. Brown. And that could come back to bite me because Justin Jefferson could put up another 40 burger. But given the savings and given how we're already trying to save some salary, we want to try and pay up for one of those 2 running backs. Saving some salary wide receiver might be what we have to do. So I do like Diggs and A.J. Brown probably the most as pay up wide receivers. Between Diggs or Brown, I think it's really close. I think it comes down to who you play at quarterback. If you play Josh Allen, probably pay up for Stephon Diggs. If you play Jalen Hurts, then probably play A.J. Brown. But looking at some other receivers kind of in this mid-range and for value. So again, like Gabe Davis is questionable, but it looks like he's more trending towards doubtful, so I'm not expecting Gabe Davis to play, which will open up some value that we'll talk about. But you do have Adam Thielen at 5,300. I think Adam Thielen's a very solid option in the mid-range. Now, Adam Thielen only saw 4 targets last week, but that was definitely an outlier. Adam Thielen is normally a guy that averages like 7 to 8 targets per game. And I was looking at his game log last season, and I want to say that he averaged like over 7 targets per game last year. So I would expect more than just 4 targets for Adam Thielen here. Maybe, Justin Jefferson saw 11 targets in week 1. Maybe, take 2 or 3 of those targets and give those, to Adam Thielen. Thielen's always been a really solid receiver. He's always been a guy that the Vikings seem to use near the red zone as well. I know Thielen, he seems to always score a touchdown whenever the Vikings get near the red zone. But we know Thielen's the wide receiver 2 for the Vikings. He's clearly, he's behind Justin Jefferson, but he's clearly ahead of anyone else. The volume's going to be there. I think it's a good matchup as well against this Eagles secondary. If the Eagles are going to try and do anything they can to stop, Justin Jefferson, that could maybe mean more targets coming Adam Thielen's way. I think Thielen is a very safe play at 5,300, and he does carry some upside if he can find the end zone maybe once or twice. But in cash games, I think Thielen's a really solid play in cash. Feels like a very safe play. Definitely feels a little bit too cheap for what his role is in this Vikings offense. So I do like him quite a bit in the mid-range. And then talking about some value at wide receiver, there's definitely a lot of guys down here that you could look to. I mean, Devontae Smith was really disappointing in week 1, did not even have a single catch. He was targeted 4 times. He's 4,500 though, and Devontae Smith, he's going to be on the field a decent amount. Clearly his competition for targets is definitely, it's there. He's going to be competing for targets with A.J. Brown. But last week, Devontae Smith still led the team in snaps played, or the wide receivers core in snaps played. Devontae Smith was on the field for 96% of the snaps last week. Just really, didn't do much. But he's going to be out there and he's going to be running routes. And at 4,500, he can just kind of find his way, open, find a way to get into the end zone. He definitely has a path to a big game, especially when he's this cheap. I would expect him to, if he does see maybe 5 or 6 targets, obviously you expect him to score more than 0 Draftkings points. So I think Devontae Smith sets up as a pretty solid value. The Tennessee receivers, it's hard for me to go there. This Tennessee team, they're a team that they want to run the ball as much as possible, and I just don't have much confidence in this Tennessee passing game. But Robert Woods is really cheap. We know Robert Woods has talent, but he didn't look great in week 1. He only saw 2 targets. He's coming back from that ACL injury, so he's playable, but I think I might prefer a guy like Devontae Smith, and then some of these Buffalo receivers we'll talk about. Same could be said for Treylon Burks. Obviously, Treylon Burks was great. Last year at Arkansas, he's one of the top receivers in college. He saw 5 targets week 1. Between Burks or Woods, maybe give a slight edge to Burks, but I'm not in love with the Tennessee receivers. I think the Tennessee receivers are definitely kind of more contrarian options. But the Buffalo receivers I do like for value. So without Gabe Davis, I'm expecting both Isaiah McKenzie and Jamison Crowder to have to play more and to probably see more volume. In week 1, Isaiah McKenzie saw 3 targets. He did convert those into 2 catches for 19 yards, and he was able to get into the end zone. He's only 4,100. He's super cheap, and he's going to have to be on the field more. I know Gabe Davis played almost every single snap in week 1, so you're taking away basically an every down receiver, going to have to fill in with a guy like McKenzie and Crowder. McKenzie and Crowder, I know both of them are kind of like slot receivers, so I don't know if they're going to play on the outside or if they'll just continue to play in the slot. But I would expect more targets for McKenzie and more playing time with Gabe Davis likely out here. And he's only 4,100, so I think Isaiah McKenzie is a pretty good value. And I think Jamison Crowder is a pretty good value as well. Crowder saw 4 targets in week 1. He played on 31% of the snaps. Obviously, he's going to have to play more here with Gabe Davis likely out, and he's only 4K. We know Crowder has some upside. He has some talent. He did put up some good games when he was on the Jets last year, and that was with really poor quarterback play. Now he's playing with Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So wouldn't be surprised to see a good game from Jamison Crowder here. He's definitely going to be on the field more, so the opportunity is going to be there. Him and McKenzie, I think, are both pretty good value plays. They're probably my 2 favorite values at receiver. Then I'll probably put Devontae Smith third. But other receiver options, I guess these Tennessee guys like Westbrook Akine is kind of like a dart throw if you want to go there. Phillips, I think, caught a touchdown last week, or actually he got pretty good volume. He didn't catch a touchdown, but he saw 9 targets, 6 catches for 66 yards. It looks like he's questionable for this game. I would think he's going to play. It looks like he got a limited practice in on Friday, so he should be good to go. He's pretty cheap. He saw 9 targets. Does that continue? Does that type of volume continue for Phillips? I don't really know much about Kyle Phillips, but I would think 9 targets is probably more of an outlier. I would say most weeks when you're looking at this Tennessee pass core, you would think that Burks and Woods are the 2 guys that are likely to lead the team in targets. But Phillips is cheap. He's 3,600. We kind of need some value on this showdown or on this 2-game slate. So Phillips is playable, but I'm not super confident in him. I definitely would temper expectations a little bit. I would not expect him to see 9 targets again. But that's really it for wide receiver. That kind of covers everything that I'm liking at this position. So let's hit on tight end real quick before we end the video. So At tight end, I think tight end's another position where you kind of have like a tier 1 and a tier 2, and I think tier 1 consists of Dallas Goedert and Dawson Knox. I think those are definitely the two best tight end plays on the slate if you can fit them. Knox is 4K, Goddard's 4,700. Goedert in week 1, again, didn't get great volume for 4 targets, but he did convert that into 3 catches for 60 yards. I mean, Goddard's going to be like an every down tight end. And I want to say in week 1 he played, on a large majority of the snaps. He played 92% of the snaps in week 1. Goddard's just going to be on the field a ton. He's going to have, he's going to find a way to get catches, to hopefully maybe get into the end zone and wind up being a pretty solid play. But because he's this cheap and he's going to be on the field so much, and the tight end position on this 2-game slate is so gross, I think Goddard's probably the best tight end play, and I think he's definitely the safest play. But I wouldn't rule out Dawson Knox either. I think Dawson Knox definitely has more upside here if, assuming Gabe Davis does not play. Without Gabe Davis, Josh Allen's going to have to throw the ball to somebody. Obviously, we expect good volume for Stephon Diggs. We expect McKenzie and Crowder to both play a little bit more. But that definitely could mean more targets coming to Dawson Knox. Knox was only targeted twice in their week 1 game against the Rams, but he's going to be on the field a ton as well. I know in week 1, I want to say he played like almost every single snap. I know Knox is going to be like an every down tight end this year. He played 86% of the snaps in week 1, so yeah, I think both Knox and Goedert are the two best tight end plays. They're going to be on the field a ton. I think Knox has better quarterback play. I think his competition for targets isn't as high. I think Goddard's the more talented tight end though, so it's really close between the two. If you can fit Goedert, I would say just play Goedert. But if you're playing like Josh Allen and you want to stack him with some pass catchers, then yeah, sure, play Knox. If you're playing Jalen Hurts and you want to stack him with some of his pass catchers, then go to Goedert. But I would say Goedert and Knox are definitely kind of 1A, 1B for best tight end plays. And then you have a guy like Irv Smith. Irv Smith actually did like quite a bit last week on the main slate, and he was terrible. He only saw 2 targets to win away catchless. Irv Smith has had he's shown upside in the past, and I think he is a pretty young, talented tight end. He's only 3,200, so he's fine as a punt play on this 2-game slate. If you can't get up to Knox or Goedert, I think Knox and Goedert both have way higher floors. I think their ceilings are probably higher as well. But I still think Smith is in play, and I'm probably not going to go to Hooper or Swaim. I mean, I think those guys are just kind of they're touchdown or bust. If they don't catch a touchdown, they're probably not going to score enough DK points to be worth rostering. The tight end positions definitely is Goedert. For Goedert number 1, I would say Knox kind of right behind him, then a big step down to Irv Smith, and then all these other guys like Hooper and Swaim. I mean, they're just kind of dart throws. So that's really it for the 2-game slate, guys, for Monday night. I'm excited for these 2 Monday night games. We got a little Monday night doubleheader. I wish the games didn't overlap like they do. I wish we had one game starting at 5 o'clock and then the next game starting at 8 o'clock. But we got 2 games with an hour in between each other. But it should be a fun 2-game slate. I appreciate you guys watching these videos. Appreciate you checking out the channel. As always, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button before you do get out of here. If you have not yet, hit that subscribe button as well. And be sure to check out PrizePicks too. PrizePicks, again, they are the sponsor of this video. You can sign up for PrizePicks and use promo code NOAH. Get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And you can take a look at all the props that PrizePicks already has posted for these 2 Monday night games. You can take a look at their full board, see everything they have, everything they're offering. If you have some picks you like, if you just take over or under, take more or less. If you have a lean one way or the other, you have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks. And you can win up to 10x your money on PrizePicks. Again, you can mix and match sports as well. So if you like to dabble into other sports, PrizePicks does offer a lot of other sports outside of just NFL. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend you guys get over there. Make sure to sign up with code NOAH. Get that deposit bonus when you do sign up for PrizePicks. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks as always for watching these videos. Hope you guys did enjoy, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.